and today we're going to be talking about learning styles. What are learning styles? And why do I need to know about learning styles? Let me first give you an overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about two different ways to look at learning styles. One is kind of a broad strokes kind of way, and that breaks down into three sections. Visual learners that make up 40% of the population. Auditory learners that make up 30% of the population. Kinesthetic learners that make up 30% of the population. Don't worry if you don't know what these mean yet. We'll get to that in just a minute. I just want you to see where we're going. We're also going to talk about personality types and those types of learners. Sensing thinking learners, intuitive thinking learners, intuitive feeling learners, and sensing feeling learners. So that's what we're going to cover today. And let's start though by looking at a definition of what is a learning style. A learning style is a way to take in and process information. It's the way you learn. It's a preference that gets stronger the more it's used. It's the way the mind operates. Like I said, it's the way we learn. Bottom line, that is what a learning style is. Some people learn one way, some people learn another way. So let's go further with this. Let me start by explaining some things that are showing up in some brain research that's being done. No two children are alike. If you've got more than one child, I know you know that already. But there are no two children alike. You stick 30 kids or even 20 kids in a classroom, they are all going to learn differently. They don't learn in the identical same way. What might be an enriched environment for one student is not necessarily an enriched environment for another student. We need to teach the children how to think for themselves, and one of the best things about homeschooling is that we can adapt our teaching style to our child's learning style. In the next video that we'll do, that you'll see in about a week, we'll talk about teaching styles. But for today, we're going to talk about the learning style of our children. Our brains have two different hemispheres, the left brain and the right brain. And they are very, very different in the way that they operate. The left brain is very logical, very orderly, very rational, mathematical. They like objectives. They like to analyze problems. Problem solving is a big part of that left brain. They think in straight lines. They think inside the box. Now, the right side of the brain is very artsy, creative. This is where you get your musicians, your artists, your actors. These people are fun people to be around. They're imaginative. They dream big dreams. They see a big picture. They lose details, but they see the big picture. They're just very, very different. Now, most people are a combination, use both sides to some extent, but there will be, with most of the people out there, there is a dominant side. Some people are more dominant than others on one side or the other. Few people are blended evenly. Very, very few. So when you think about your child and you think about whether they're left brain dominant or right brain dominant, an easy way to tell, this is not foolproof, but it can indicate, can give you some direction. Ask them to fold their hands, like you see there in that picture. Just ask them to fold their hands. And you can see which thumb comes out on top. The thumb that comes out on top is usually, not always, but usually the side of the brain that is dominant. You'll see there on the left side of your picture, that's the left brain clasping of hands, and on the right side, that's your right brain. So that should help. If you want more information on this, I am going to give you a link below to this chart right here that talks about the different learning styles with left brain, right brain, and some tips that might help. If your child is right brain, try these things. If your child is left brain, try these things. So anyway, that is there below for you. I'm not going to take the time to go over this chart here in this presentation, but that is there for you for future reference. Okay, so why does it matter? Why does it matter what our learning style is? I mean, when we send our kids to school, they all get plopped into a big classroom with all different kinds of learning styles, and they're taught by one teacher who teaches with a particular teaching style, and whatever you get's what you get. That's true. And if your child's learning style is a good mesh with your teacher's teaching style, then that's great for them, and they will do well in that class. If, however, your child's learning style is not a good fit with your teacher's teaching style, your child's going to have problems. Think back to when you were in school. You may have had a favorite teacher. And I think if you'd analyze it, you would realize that your learning style and their teaching style were a good fit. And that's what we're going to try to do here. Is the reason it matters is the way a child learns affects their entire personality and development. And if we can make a fit between your teaching style and their learning style, then it will be that much better. It will help you better communicate, the two of you together. And it will help you decide, if you understand their learning style, it will help you decide what material you might use or what style of instruction you might use. It will just guide you in what you're doing when you plan your homeschool year. All right, some reminders. No one learning style is better than another. We are each individually made the way we are, and this is not a contest. God is unique in how He has gifted us, and the learning style that your child has is an amazing gift from the Lord. Not one is better than another. Now, we do all have characteristics of each learning style. As I said, it's rare to find someone who's totally left-brained and can't do anything with their right side of the brain, or vice versa. Okay, you're going to see as we go over these, well, you may see yourself in all three of the broad stroke learning styles, but you're going to have a dominant one or a stronger one that is more predominant than the others. Learning about each style will help us better understand and communicate with your child. And if you've got more than one child, you will see each one is different. And you can tailor make things for each child. And this is just really going to help you in your schooling. Let's talk about visual learners. Let's start with that. Visual learners remember what was read or seen in a presentation. They're going to take in information with their eyes. It's what they see. They don't really retain what they hear over a long period of time. So if you hand them an audiobook and you ask them to go listen to the audiobook, that's really not going to do for them. They're not going to retain they're not going to be able to give you details. They could probably give you a summary of the book. They're not going to give you details. If you have a visual learner and you set them down in front of a movie of the book, they're going to remember not just the summary. They can tell you details. They can tell you what the person wore when they walked through the door. Visual learners are just, that's what clicks with them. They think in pictures. They use scenes to describe things. They have vivid imaginations. Everything is just color and booming. And my daughter is one of these. She's very visual. She's also very kinesthetic, but she's very visual. And it's not just, the lady who came in to church. It's the lady with the red dress and the black shoes, but the handbag was white. And why was her handbag? It's this detail, colors, and they'll remember faces. They won't necessarily remember names. They like written reports better than verbal ones. Again, they want to see it. It's not just an auditory thing. They prefer to see information such as pictures, diagrams, cartoons, and demonstrations. Let me give you another example here. When I was working with my daughter to help her memorize some hymns, and we would work on a verse a week, a verse of the hymn. And, we would sing it, and she learns to music better than if we just sit there and do rote memory. If I can put a scripture verse to music, she'll remember it better. But I found if I could draw a picture of that hymn verse, she wouldn't forget it. Not just for the short term, she wouldn't forget it for the long term. So if you can draw illustrations of what you're teaching your child that's a visual learner, they're going to remember it better. Encourage them to draw pictures. You may go over in, say, history class, I don't know, pick an event, Columbus crossing the ocean. But if they could draw that for you, even color a coloring sheet while you're discussing that topic, they're going to remember it better. My daughter remembers the three guys in the furnace, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because she colored it. Not only did she color it, but later we made a construction paper thing of them in the fiery furnace. If they can see it, they're going to remember it. Visual learners are very easily distracted with a lecture with no visual aids. They've got to have those visual aids, or they're not going to learn it. It's just not going to happen. Now, you don't want to be too intense with this. They're easily overwhelmed with intense visuals accompanied by a lecture. So you need to balance it. They do benefit from charts, maps, notes, flashcards. Flashcards are big. If you're doing vocabulary, put them on flashcards. But don't just put the word on the flashcard. Let them color a picture on that flashcard that goes with the word, whatever to them goes with that word. Let them color that on the flashcard too. Again, it's colors, it's pictures, it's visual. So let me show you another chart here about visual learners. I'm going to let you just kind of look over this rather than me read it to you, because you can read as well as I can. So let me give you just a minute here and let you kind of look at this. You'll see as we go over these charts, as we describe these, you may go, oh, that's what I am. Or you may go, oh, yeah, my son, yeah, fits him like a T. And you'll see that as we go over this. All right, let's move on. Auditory learners. They remember what they hear in a lecture or a presentation, or even during a conversation. Not only will they remember it, they'll remember it for a long, long time. Years, decades sometimes. I'm very much an auditory learner. I can remember conversations from decades ago. I can remember lectures in high school, and you're talking 30 years ago. But I remember those presentations. I remember the lectures. It's not what the teacher did or showed us, it's what they said. So if you have an auditory learner, audiobooks are great. They can talk while they write. It's multitasking. They're sophisticated speakers. It doesn't faze them at all to get in front of 200 people to make a speech. They remember by listening, and therefore they do get the most out of lectures more than any other learning type. They assign little meaning to concepts or information until that information is presented in an audible format. So they may read about some information, but they've not heard it yet. If they were to hear it, either on a video or an audio, or reading it out loud to themselves, they will remember it better. They prefer to hear information spoken. They absorb a lecture with very little effort. And they don't need to take careful notes to learn. People hated borrowing notes if they missed class. If they hated borrowing it from me, because the only notes I took were things that would jog my own memory. And once I had that memory jog, I could remember that whole section. So, note taking is not going to be their strong suit. They often avoid eye contact in order to concentrate. They're very focused. They might read aloud to themselves, as I've mentioned. That way they can hear it. And they like background music when they study. To them, that music is not a distraction. To other learning types, it might be. But to an auditory learner, that background music is not a distraction. It helps reinforce things. As they are reading their chemistry book and listening to whatever music they're listening to, later when they're tested on that material, that music will remind them of that point that they read, and they remember it better. I know that sounds weird, but that is the way that it works. Here's another chart that shows auditory learners, and again, I'm going to give you a minute and let you look at this. Do feel free to pause this video if you just want to take a minute here and make notes, or if you go, oh yeah, that's my daughter, I should take notes so I know what to do. Feel free to pause this and take a minute. All right, let's move on. Kinesthetic learners. My daughter is very much a kinesthetic learner. She's a combination of auditory and visual and kinesthetic, and she's not auditory. Kinesthetic learners want to move all the time. They want to be busy. They will get up in the middle of a class and want to do a ballet movement for you. They will wiggle. They will sit next to you and they will wiggle. They will fiddle with stuff in their hands. It will drive you insane. But they learn better if they're moving. Because again, they're going to associate that movement with what they've just heard or what they've just seen, and they'll remember it better later. If you have a kinesthetic learner and they are fidgety, give them something to do with their hands. Give them Play-Doh or Silly Putty or blocks or something that they can do with their hands while you're teaching them, math or history or science or whatever. They're generally well coordinated. They are doers. They want to get in and do it. They don't want to talk about it. They want to go do it. They like to take things apart and put them back together so they can learn how things work. They need concrete experiences to act as learning aids. Let me give you an example here of, say, making a cake. Okay, your visual learner is going to want to watch a cooking expert go through the steps of making a cake. Then they've got it. Your auditory learner is going to want to hear about it. Your kinesthetic learner is going to want to make the cake. There's a difference there. These people want to get in and do things. They prefer touch. That's their primary mode for taking in information. In traditional lecture situations, they need to be writing out important facts. That's going to be their way. If they're stuck in a lecture situation, that's going to be the way that they need to learn, is to write things out. Create study sheets connected to vivid examples. These people have the hardest time, I think, in a traditional classroom setting. Because, in a traditional classroom setting, you're not allowed to get up and do a ballet movement or wiggle and dance or, play with things. Sometimes you can get away with doodling on your paper, but that's about as far as you get to go with the kinesthetic learners in a traditional setting. So giving them creative study sheets, this is just so good in homeschooling. If you've got a kinesthetic learner, they're in the best place. Role-playing can help them learn and remember important ideas. My daughter often will come to me and say, Mom, can we act this out before I have to do it? Whether it's, talking to the teller at the bank, or it's paying for something at the grocery store, or talking to her cousin about a particular topic. She wants to role play that with me before she actually has to do it. And that's the way she's going to learn. All right, here's another chart. And again, I'll give you another minute. You could pause this and look at this, and then we'll move on. I don't know if you've picked up or not. My daughter and I are very opposite in our learning styles. I like to do things. I'm a kinesthetic learner, but I'm more auditory. She's a visual learner with a lot of kinesthetic. So we have very different learning styles, and it took me a while to figure it out. Once I figured it out that I can't teach her the same way that I learn, it made all the difference in our homeschooling day. Once I adapted my teaching style to match her learning style, school became a totally different atmosphere altogether, and her learning just rocketed. I mean, it was amazing. All right, let me mention some tips here. And I'm just going to go through these real quickly. Visual learners need to write out things. Use color coding. Use outlines. Use flashcards and notes. Review the textbook again and again. Again, they're visual. They need to see it. Color code it. Just make it highlight, circle, star, asterisk, whatever you need to do. Visual learners need to see it. Auditory learners, auditory learners, be sure they can hear, read written material out loud, verbally review spelling words, record the teaching time so they can hear it again later. Give them as much auditory as you can. Audiobooks are awesome things. Memorization things versus scripture songs. Trying to think through other options. History lessons, whatever. Any of that can be recorded and played back later. Anything that can be set to music, anything that can be done through the years, they're going to learn better. All right, and your kinesthetic learners, they need short blocks of time for studying, not long blocks of time. A kinesthetic learner, if you've got someone that's dominated by the kinesthetic style, if you can break the school day up, take frequent breaks, they're going to learn a lot better instead of trying to sit down and do a 3-hour stretch. They're just not going to make it. Let them get up, let them wiggle, let them have a snack or whatever. Break up their day. Have as many hands-on opportunities as possible. Labs, studio courses, field trips, job shadowing, internships, hands-on, creativity, anything like that. Poster board and markers, that sounds like that would be visual, but the kinesthetic learners, they're drawing these things and doing. Use flashcards. Flashcards work really well for these people as well. Okay, now we're going to switch gears here. Those were 3 types, and your child is going to be one or a combination of those 3 types. But let me talk about Myers-Briggs personality types. Myers and Briggs were a mother-daughter team, and they started doing a lot of research in student classroom environments, and they realized that you could break students up, children, they were dealing with elementary age. You could break them up into different personality types, and over the course of their lifetime, they refined that more and more and more, really until they died. They worked on it all their lives, each of them. Now I'm going to show you this chart. Do not be overwhelmed by this chart. There's going to be a link below this video that has this chart for you to download and look at. You can print it out. But I'm going to briefly cover kind of an overall to give you an idea of where we're going with this. According to Briggs-Myers, there is a gamut of 16 different personality types. And pretty much anyone can be pegged into one of these 16 little holes. When I took the Briggs-Myers test and was evaluated and then told what I was, and then read the description of my personality type, it's uncanny. I mean, they got me right off. I mean, it was just, yeah, that's exactly who I am. And yes, those are my weaknesses. And yes, those are my strengths. And in a paragraph, they summed up my personality. And it was shocking, but it was dead on accurate. And understanding this really helped me understand other people that I'm around, whether it be my husband or my parents, my siblings, children, co-workers, whoever. If you can figure out kind of what their personality is, then things that were confusing maybe to you before relationally suddenly make sense. Now, I'm not going to go over this. There's all kinds of reading you can do on the internet about the Myers-Briggs test and the different personality tests. So I'm not going to go into all that. We are going to divide this up here into 4 different types of learners. So you have those that have a lot of intuition, a lot of gut feeling, and also very emotionally driven, very feeling people. Okay, so you've got that. They have gut feelings that they trust, and they have feelings, strong feelings. They're dominated by their feelings, what they feel. Then you've got your SFs, which are sensing, feeling people. Okay, they don't have the intuition, but it's more sensing. This is kind of how they, what they think, and what it's not really thinking. It's they sense something. It's really hard to explain. Then you've got your 2 other types. Is your intuitive thinking. They've got gut feelings, but they're going to go with they're dominated by their thinking, by their mind, not their feelings. And then you've got those who are sensing. By sensing, I mean not like gut feeling. I mean sensing more like they understand things by their senses, by what they see, what they what they feel, what they smell, what they taste. Okay, so they're going to be drawing in through their senses, but they're dominated by their thinking. So don't worry if it doesn't make sense yet. It will maybe in a minute. Okay, your sensing thinking style. That's people who take information in with their senses. They're dominated by their thinking. They want immediate response and feedback. If they see something, they want feedback to know, is this right? Is this wrong? They want details, sequential order, hands-on activity with specific correct answers, very concrete, again, dominated by their thinking. Clear, concise, step-by-step directions. You can't be vague with these people. They want to know what it is you want in the answers to the test. Don't be open-ended. They don't deal with that well. They want to know exactly what the expectations are. Why something has to be done that way. How well does it need to be done? Okay, they need to know expectations. They do best with drill and practice. That's what fits for them. Now let's talk about intuitive thinking. Again, you've got your gut feelings, but dominated by your thoughts, by your mind. These people plan and organize before they start their work. They've got to have everything there. It needs to be ordered. They're going to plan, they're going to make an outline for what they're going to do that day. They've got a schedule. They're just very organized people. Now let me come back and say their room may not look organized, but in their mind there is an organization there. They know where everything is. If you move a pile of their stuff, if they're pile type people, and you move a pile, it messes up their organization. They can go berserk over that because you moved their pile. So don't let think organized, everything's in its happy little place. And so, okay, my child's not an intuitive thinking person. They might be. Their organization may be piles. So anyway, keep that in mind. They like to work independently. They don't really care for groups so much. They'd rather do it on their own. They may not even want your help to show them how to do it. They'd rather learn it on their own. Some of you are going, oh man, that is so my job. They like to analyze things. They want to know the pros and the cons. Let me figure it all out. They like to argue and debate. Not in a disrespectful sort of way, but in that's how they understand things. Well, what if this happened? Well, what if that happened? Which is, if you're planning to do something, what's the best scenario? If you're going on a trip, what's the best route to get there? That's going to be their thinking. Well, if we went this way, then, we'd have to slow down every time we got to a small town. Whereas if we went this way, we'd be on highway the whole way. It's 30 miles longer. So you see that arguing and debating going on. They think about ideas. They don't just think up ideas. They think about ideas, how they're related to each other. Very thinking people. They like to find a new way to do something, improve on what people have done before, or come up with something totally new. They like problem solving. They're logical, and they like strategic games. They're going to like chess and some of those other strategic games. Then you have intuitive feeling learners. Again, you still have that gut feeling, that gut intuition, but now it's driven by their emotions and not their mind. They like to learn without time constraints. If you give them a little pop quiz and you've got 3 minutes to finish this quiz, they go into panic mode. Okay, time constraints just push them over the edge. They need praise for their own personal ideas and insights. That's one way to encourage the intuitive feeling. Again, emotionally driven. They use creativity and imagination to communicate their thoughts and ideas. They like open-ended activities with lots of possible outcomes. Remember, this is very different than that first type that we talked about that needs everything concrete. They want to know what the expectation is. It's totally different, opposite. They want, the intuitive feeling learner wants everything open-ended, where whatever it is I come up with is acceptable, is good. Lots of possibilities. They like to work on a lot of things at one time. In fact, when they're doing their studies, they may jump from one study to another, to another, to another, without finishing any of them, and then they'll come back and work on them again and again. Okay, so you've got the other type that finishes math first, and then does history, and then that compartmentalizes. Okay, the intuitive feeling type is not going to be a compartmentalized type person. They want to have everything open-ended. Everything's, I'm working on all of them. You might ask, well, what subject are you studying right now? Well, I'm kind of, doing this, this, and this. Okay, that's just the way they work. Self-expression and self-discovery is very important to these people. They look inwardly a lot, but they also look outwardly in expressing themselves. They're very creative, and they like artistic activities. It's not just that they're doers, but they like to, again, it's expression. They want to be that artistic child. They want to be that drama queen. This is just who they are. They're gut feelings. Lots of emotion here. All right, the fourth type is the sensing feeling. Again, they're taking information in through their senses, and they're dominated by their emotions. They like getting personal attention and praise. They need that to feel whole, to feel safe. They're very good at sharing their feelings and their experiences, and they will tell you all their feelings for the whole day and how this made them feel and how that made them feel. They like working in groups. They love being around people. They want to be part of a team. They beg you to let them be on the basketball team because they want to be part of a team. It's not to play basketball. It's to be around the people. It's all about people. It's working in groups. It's again, it's very interactive. These people are very interactive. They like having someone show them how to do something. We talked about making the cake. These people want you to show them. They're going to watch you make the cake. It's not they're going to do it. They're going to watch you. They want to see it done. Again, role-playing, personal expression is very important to the sensing feeling learner. They prefer games where no one loses. So if you've got board games or card games or whatever where no one loses, those are going to be the best kind of games for them. They don't like competition really because they don't like to lose. They don't like to have the pressure of needing to win. So those are very difficult for them. So just keep that in mind. Interpersonal activities, again, this learner type is all about people and interacting, and but they also like to learn about themselves and how that relates to everybody else. So there are 4 questions that each of these learner types has a question. Let me just show you here. The sensing thinking person who takes in information with their senses and rationalizes and thinks about it wants to answer the question, what? Okay, what? So let's take an example. Christopher Columbus sailed over the ocean. What? What happened? That's what they want to know. They want to know the facts. What happened? He got in a boat, worked with the people in Spain to finance the trip. Okay, they came across the ocean. Okay, that's what. Your intuitive thinking, gut feelings, rational, they want to know why. Why did Columbus get in the boat to come across the ocean? What was he doing? What was his purpose? What was really going on? Was there political intrigue in the there with Queen Isabella? Why did he come? What was going on? Your intuitive feeling, emotional, gut feelings, emotionally driven. Well, what if? What if Christopher Columbus had never reached North America? What if instead he landed in South America? Or what if he had drowned in the process and the ships all sank? What if he had never gotten financed? Okay, they're all the what ifs. Your sensing feeling people are, well, what does this mean to me? Okay, yeah, Christopher Columbus crossed the ocean, but so what? What does it mean to me? How does this impact my life? So you may be able to tell from the questions that your child asks. Think through their questions and see if they're asking a particular type of question as you teach them. And that may give you a hint here as to which of these types they may be. Now, I would say probably you're thinking, boy, those first divisions were a lot easier to figure out than these last ones. I know this can be confusing. I only went over 4 of the broad personality types instead of all 16. But it is very valuable to know this because of how it can help you with your child. Again, just kind of a summary of what we've talked about here. Broad strokes, the visual, audio, and kinesthetic learners. And if that's all you get out of this, great. I mean, that will help you so much. If you can go further with it and figure out their personality types, that will help you zero in a little bit tighter. Let me give you some recommended resources. Again, I've got links below to these places, to these things. There's a book called The Big What Now Book of Learning Styles. This, if you get this book, it will become a reference that you go back to again and again as your child goes all the way through, elementary, junior high, high school. This helps you so much in being able to figure out, why are they acting this way? Why are they responding to this curriculum this way? Should I change curriculum to a different one? This is going to be a good reference book for you. Another one, The Way They Learn. Cynthia Tobias did a fantastic job in this little book, and she goes over some of these things that I've gone over just in a lot more detail. I also wrote a book called God's Gifted Children, Homeschooling God's Gifted Children, and this takes a little bit different of an approach than what I've taken in this particular slideshow here. What I talk about in this book is God's gifting your child with spiritual gifts, with a spiritual gift, a predominant spiritual gift, and how that impacts your child's learning style. So that's kind of a little bit different twist, and that's available there on a link below as well. So here's your assignment. You didn't know I was going to give you an assignment, did you? Gather your more information. Again, the links below should help you with that. Figure out your child's learning style and use that information to help you in selecting different curriculum, whether it be math or science or history or even reading, writing, reading, writing, and grammar. Knowing how your child learns will help you tremendously. As I mentioned, my daughter wants color, she wants visual, she wants to do, and math was a very hard subject for her because it was very black and white, very concrete, very boring. I ended up finding a curriculum that teaches math in story form, and it made all the difference in the world on her math skills. Suddenly she was interested in math. She loved math, and she's learning math unbelievably. So if you can adapt your curriculum to your child's learning style, they will really blossom. And that is all I have for you this time. Again, next time we'll talk about teaching styles and some different methods of homeschooling. And until then, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you later.